Welcome to the recovery training for Sotrovimab. This slide shows the current comparisons for adults with COVID-19 and recovery, ignoring those for people with flu. And you can see that there are two new antiviral therapies that have been introduced into the trial, one of which is Sotrovimab, a monoclonal antibody against the viral spike protein. The spike protein is the predominant viral surface protein, and it mediates the interaction with receptors on host cells that allows the virus to infect them. We know that antibodies against spike can neutralize the virus and prevent it from infecting new cells, so several different monoclonal antibody treatments have been developed that target spike. These are the results from recovery for the neutralizing monoclonal antibody developed by Regeneron, called Ronapreve, or Casirivimab and Indevimab. On the right you can see the results for all participants, regardless of serostatus, and there's a small and non-significant reduction in mortality associated with use of the monoclonal. But on the left, results are shown divided by baseline serostatus. So seronegatives are shown in the two lines on the top, i.e. those who don't have any anti-spike antibodies at randomization, and seropositives are shown at the bottom. And you can see that the beneficial effect of the monoclonal is really limited to those that don't have their own antibodies against the virus. And in this situation, mortality is reduced from about 30% to 24%. However, because each monoclonal antibody binds to its own specific part of the spike protein, mutations in the binding site can alter the potency of these treatments. Ronapreve is highly effective against previous variants, including Alpha and Delta, but unfortunately has very little activity against Omicron. In contrast, Sotrovimab has preserved efficacy against Omicron, with only a small reduction in neutralizing ability. Sotrovimab is derived from an antibody that was identified in a patient who had SARS-CoV-1 infection during the 2003 outbreak. And the fact that it also neutralizes SARS-CoV-2 suggested it binds to part of the spike protein which is more conserved, so should hopefully mean that it's less likely to mutate in future variants and become inactive. It's a fully human antibody, but it's had Fc portion modification, which increases its half-life after infusion to about 7 weeks. Among outpatients in the COMET-ICE trial, Sotrovimab reduced the need for hospitalization or death by 85%, but there are no similar data for inpatients. It was assessed in the NIH Active-3 TCO trial, but this was abandoned for futility after around 300 patients were recruited. So this trial was too small to detect any moderate but worthwhile benefits. And also in Active-3, the pre-specified analysis didn't take into account serostatus, so effects like that seen with Ronapreve and recovery would have been missed. There remains uncertainty about the benefits of Sotrovimab for inpatients for this reason. All adults are potentially eligible for Sotrovimab in recovery, including those who've received it previously. Also eligible are adolescents aged at least 12 and weighing at least 40 kilograms. Pregnant or breastfeeding women are eligible too, and although there's no reason to think that neutralizing monoclonal antibodies should cause any harm in these groups, there's limited experience because they're new drugs. There are no exclusions around liver or kidney function, and no dose adjustments needed. The dose is 1,000 milligrams in 100 milliliters of 0.9% saline or 5% dextrose, given over 1 hour as soon as possible after randomization. Because of the experience with other monoclonals, such as Ronapreve, we think that biological sampling is likely to be crucial to assess who can benefit from these treatments and if there's any real effect. Two different sample types are being collected in the antiviral comparisons in recovery. Firstly, a serum sample that was done with the convalescent plasmid and Ronapreve comparisons before, and this will be used to look for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2 and also possibly to look for viral antigen. And secondly, nose swabs, which will be used to measure viral load and look at the effect of antiviral drugs on the rate of viral clearance. These will also be used to look for mutations that might confer resistance to the antiviral drugs. At each time point, a single swab will be used to swab both nostrils. Both samples will be taken at baseline, which is day 1, and these must be taken after consent, but before randomization. And swabs will also be taken at day 3 and day 5. It's important that these samples are taken not only from people allocated the antiviral treatments, but also those allocated usual care in the antiviral comparisons. Sites will be provided with sample kits for serum and nose swabs, and these will include a returned addressed envelope so they can be returned in the hospital internal mail. Full instructions for taking samples are in each kit and can also be found on the recovery website on the site Teams page. Regarding the safety of Sotrovimab, the largest trial to date is Comet ICE, which showed the 85% reduction in hospitalizations among outpatients. And in this trial, the rate of adverse events was similar between placebo and Sotrovimab. And because Sotrovimab is a human monoclonal antibody, the rate of infusion-related reactions was very low and actually was similar to placebo. This low rate of infusion reactions was also seen with Ronapreve and recovery. However, because of the potential for monoclonal antibodies to cause reactions, including some severe allergic reactions, we'll record information on this during the trial, so please ensure that these are recorded in the medical notes. The standard follow-up form will record infusion reactions, including severity, whether they were mild, requiring no treatment, moderate, requiring treatment without adrenaline, or severe, requiring adrenaline. And they'll also record whether or not the infusion was completed. So please document if the infusion had to be discontinued in the notes so this can be recorded accurately. Recovery has its own supply of Sotrovimab, and as part of the site setup process, sites should provide an address to which they would like Sotrovimab to be sent to by the recovery team. The recovery team will monitor use and resupply automatically, but do contact us if you're concerned that you're running low. Sotrovimab should be stored at 2 to 8 degrees, and no additional monitoring or accountability records are required beyond standard care. Unlike Ronapreve, Sotrovimab doesn't necessarily require reconstitution in an aseptic unit, but your local pharmacy will decide how this is done at your site. Thank you for listening.